Good evening, Facebook. I'm Angela Green, Executive Director of On Location Memphis, and I want to welcome you to our very first OLM Live discussion. Now, how this discussion came about was based on a couple of articles that I read last week. They were reporting that one of the shareholders of Disney was basically lobbying for Disney to drop Black Widow on Disney Plus. Now, all of us know that Black Widow is one of the blockbuster films that was their release this year was impacted by the pandemic. It was originally scheduled for release earlier this year, pushed back to the latter part of this year, and now it's been permanently set for May 7, 2021, at least for now. So I have deemed this discussion the Disney dilemma. And it's the backdrop for the greater discussion of the past, which is theatrical distribution, versus the future, which is online streaming distribution. So when I first read that article, the first person that came to my mind was basically family, okay? That was my brother-in-law. I mean, he knows, I don't know anybody who knows more about the MCU, the history, and he was the first person that I thought of that I wanted to have this discussion with. So I want to bring to the virtual stage my brother-in-law, Rayburn. How you doing, brother-in-law?
Doing pretty good. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh, no problem at all. Thank you for being here. Now, the next person that I thought about having this conversation with is a good friend of mine. I met him here in Memphis, Tennessee. He's a local filmmaker. He's since moved to Indianapolis, and now he helps run a video production department for a mega church out there. But he's always stayed connected to Memphis, the film community, and OLM as one of our governing board members. I want to bring to the virtual stage Adrian Williams.
Hey, hey, what's up?
Hey, good. Excellent. So, listen, before we get started, I just want to let you, all you in Facebook, do me a favor. I want you to click, like, share this stream. Let everybody know that we're having this discussion tonight. We're all a part of the film industry. We're lovers, fans of the film industry. And the film industry is in the middle of a transition. And nobody knows where this is going to end at the end of the day. So now is the great time for us to have this discussion and let everybody know, what do we think as the fans and as members of the industry think? Where do we think it needs to end? So let's get this. And also too, I want to remind you, if you want to be a part of the conversation, feel free. Put your thoughts, your questions down in the link in the live stream. We can bring you into the conversation, posted on the live stream so that you can also be a part of what we're discussing tonight. So to get everything started, I want to start with you, Ray. Why don't you give us a little background on this film, Black Widow, and where does it fit in the MCU?
Well, Black Widow is the 24th movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. For the most part, it's kind of like a prequel. It takes place based on the events that took place after Civil War, Captain America Civil War. So the movie basically talks about and goes into detail about Black Widow's origin related to the Red Room and other type of family that she dealt with, during her times in Russia. So, but the thing is, the movie also is going to be setting up a lot of other things based off of maybe Thunderbolt Ross and the other consequences that took place of her basically, not to spoil the movies, no one haven't seen Captain America Civil War, but her actions that she did to lead to the consequences that she may face. So it's a prequel, but it does have some ending points based on the current MCU timeline.
Okay. So obviously this is one that's highly anticipated by the fans in the MCU fans, comic book fans, correct?
Oh, absolutely. And if because of what happened in Endgame, again, if those that didn't see the movie, but what happened in Endgame, a lot of people want to know and see what's going on in this movie towards the end, possibly to see if anything transpires, based on what happened in Endgame as well, just based on curiosity. I'm trying not to spoil, if someone didn't see Endgame, but everybody did, but I don't want to be the, spoiler police or nothing like that. But
I have to admit that if anybody has not seen Avengers,
where were they? They apparently had the Rona long before anybody else
did.
They were already thick and shut in, not to have seen Endgame.
Exactly. So, Adrian, now one of the, of course, this gentleman, he wants Disney to put it on Disney Plus.
Right.
His reasoning is he thinks streaming is the future. Disney is saying that they wanted, part of the reason why they kept moving it, because they feel like the fans deserve a theatrical experience. How important do you think the fans care about the theatrical experience?
I think you're kind of going into two camps. You have what Disney's trying to, I'll say, the land that Walt built. That what they're trying to do is come off as purist. Okay. Mm-hmm. And they believe that their true core audience are purists, and that's going to the theaters, sitting down and seeing it on the big screen, things like that. But when you invest in a company,
right?
Yeah, it's basically all about the money and not having, and sometimes you invest in these big companies like Disney and these big box companies. You invest in Walmart because you don't expect to have to wait 10 years for a return on your investment.
Right.
And so what's happening is the consumption habits are trending toward at home streaming and things like that, but the purist Disney, they're saying that the fans deserve to see it as it was intended. There was a story of a funny story about a purist, Quentin Tarantino. He was sitting in a meeting, and one of the executives for the studio distributor basically said, and this is when he was actually doing The Hateful Eight. And they said, well, we're actually thinking about, putting it out for the iPhone. Mm-hmm. Walked out of the meeting right then and there. He walked out of the meeting because, he wanted it to be he wanted that 70 millimeter, he wanted the purity of seeing it on the big screen. But, the direct-to-consumer approach, we see, in this time, right now, they're looking at what they've invested in the film, and they want that return, and I think it's important. Now, we're the consumers. We're basically, when we go to Netflix and one of our shows may come out, we're basically binge watching the show, all 8 or 10 episodes, those 2 days. We're doing it. We're consuming it right there, then and there. So I would say that the true thing that I'm a comics fan, Ray's a comics fan. We're ready to see the film right now. The main thing is, Angela, is that it's pushing our other films further down, the Eternals, by pushing, because the Black Widow has to be the film that starts the phase 4 for MCU. And so that's pushing all our other films further and further away. Yeah.
Well, Ray, I know when what was it? Mulan, when Disney started the test, Candace was like, well, Candace is my sister, that's Ray's wife. She was like, Angela, Ray said we got to go ahead and buy Mulan so that they can get a good return on Mulan, so that they'll go ahead and drop Black Widow.
Yeah, I was telling people, hey, buy Mulan.
Yeah.
I was telling them,
So
Ray, you're standing on the corner with a sign, subscribe to Disney Plus.
Hey, buy Mulan.
Buy Mulan.
So we can see Black Widow,
Yeah.
you know.
So would you say that the majority of the MCU fans, they're like, at this point, we're ready just to see Black Widow and get the second phase on and popping?
Right. Yeah. But you have to look at that litmus test was not only Mulan, but it was also Tom Hanks' Greyhound, and of course Tenet. You know, putting those out, you know, you have to look at it that if you start with the theater chains and things like that, they lost $561 million in that second quarter. Okay, that's down like 99%. Okay, so Mulan coming in on a streaming service and only bringing in about 68 million dollars, and then Tenet worldwide only bringing in like 341 million, but domestically just 52 million. They don't, that domestic number scares them, you know.
Well, and it should, because most of the industry, they want to get the money that they spent in the opening weekend,
right?
You know, so they want to basically recoup. And then, you know, those first 3 days, or if they start on late Thursday night,
right?
And then after that, it's a gravy train from there on out. And I mean, I'm really wondering if they're really going to even see that in 2021.
You know, I want to put this in there. Obviously, there's a huge battle between the shareholders and, of course, the board with Disney. So what's happening is, they know that Black Widow is going to make $1 billion. They know that any other movie that comes out is going to make $1 billion. You know, but the problem is with the shareholders, they want to say, hey, release it. So the problem is they have to figure out, because Disney's definitely in a dilemma, because they have to figure out exactly how to cut costs based on due to the pandemic. Right. The problem is with the MCU movies and the streaming, you had both, you know, together, but the problem is it was a top to bottom approach. Now they have to figure out pretty much a bottom to top approach, because the problem is that they have to learn how to save money based on production and the investments that they put into the movies. For example, like The Mandalorian. The Mandalorian, it was like the flagship for Disney Plus.
Right.
And for the most part, Disney had it basically, they projected by 2024 that they would have 60 million subscribers. They already have that now. So now they actually predict by 2024, they will have 90 million subscribers. So that's a huge, huge jump for subscribers. But the problem is they're trying to develop a little bit more on how to actually save money on producing smaller budget, smaller production type movies like The Mandalorian. Mandalorian looks awesome, but from what I hear, they actually do it in a concise and small, you know, studio with the actual instead of the green screen. I think they have the new technology with the actual
panels.
Yeah, the actors can actually see the planets or the background, and they can get into how they're doing it. So they got a problem on their hands when it comes down to streaming, because you got a lot of these movies are the main front, but then the Disney streaming, the digital platform, is the subplots. So now they have to move away from the movies, because they're refusing basically not to show these movies, because they got a lot of subplots within these other, like Falcon Winter Soldier, WandaVision, Loki. They're all, you know, key components to the different stories that they can tell. And from what I'm hearing, they may have to change up some things based on Falcon and Winter Soldier, because there's supposed to be a couple people that were in Black Widow that's supposed to show up in Falcon and Winter Soldier, but I think they had a problem with them trying to introduce them first on Disney streaming network versus on the movie with Black Widow. So Disney got a dilemma on their hands, you know, big time.
I mean, but they're gonna have to move out eventually, because from what I'm reading, we spent 150 to 200 million on Black Widow. I mean, you got to recoup that some kind of way. You know what I'm saying? At least start recouping it. I mean,
Well,
you can't keep just pushing it out.
Well, the funny part is that in Endgame, the year was Adrian, was it 2023 or 2024?
Yeah.
They probably pretty much catching up now on the actual timeline, of what's going on now. But a lot of these movies that's coming out, some of them are prequels. I don't know if Shang-Chi is going to be like a prequel or not. I'm not for certain. It's going to be a big movie because it got the Mandarin up in there.
Yeah, yeah.
So
and I think that Shang-Chi movie might be one of those films that leads to the more mystical side of the Marvel universe and things like that. Another, just like Doctor Strange, kind of opened the door and things like that. So we're hoping, for the new Blade and things like that. I think one of the things that Disney and some of these Marvel especially is really counting on is, I believe that they may be counting on those in-betweeners, those tweeners, the series. You want to get, instead of coming out with the big movie, we have a series, just like The Mandalorian being a series can carry things. So, they're gonna look to some of the films that we thought might be movies might, as the virus and COVID-19, all this continues to go, the pandemic, the longer this thing stretches out, you're going to see some of those I'd say logos in the big banner that they bring out. Some of those films are going to actually become series. They may not. They may not even go to the theater houses. They may actually go straight to video on demand or streaming services and things like that. So it's financial. The financials make more sense that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, okay, so we know we got the data on Tenet, which was the blockbuster theatrical release.
Mm-hmm.
And so, of course, domestically, the numbers were dismal.
Yeah,
but
about 15%. Mm-hmm.
Okay, but international, the numbers were pretty good, weren't they?
Really good.
Yeah, decent. So, what do you all think? Do you think this is a good move for Disney to just go ahead and push to May of 2021 for Black Widow, even if domestically the numbers may be dismal?
Angela, are we sure it's going to be May 2021?
Right. Well, today is May 2021.
Let's back up and see let's see when this thing started. People don't realize, and I know Ray knows this, that the development of Black Widow actually started in April 2004.
What?
Yeah. With Lionsgate Entertainment, Lionsgate Studios. It started then. And they were in talks. Your Black Widow could have easily have been Emily Blunt.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, okay. but she decided to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's this thing has been going on. Maybe Black Widow is cursed. I don't know, but it started back in 2004, and it's gone through a series of writers, a couple of directors, and things like that.
You know what? Let me put my input on that. Now, I'm gonna tell you, with when you mention the MCU, you got to mention Kevin Feige. Okay, so him and of course Jon Favreau with Iron Man. They really started it off. But when things started to progress and they said, okay, let's get Thor, Captain America, Hulk, during the time, I think Bob Iger was the CEO of Disney. Right. And of course, the CEO of the president of Marvel Entertainment was it Ike Perlmutter for the most part. So that's who Kevin Feige was answering to. So when things started to catch up, there are some things like, for instance, Kevin Feige wanted to have the Mandarin as a added scene for the Avengers movie, along with Shang-Chi. Right. So the thing about it was that, and he also wanted to have Black Widow to have her own movie, which it was in production already. It was already thought of since 2004. Also wanted to have Captain Marvel and Black Panther way before what we got. So what happened was he was being, in a sense, blocked by Ike Perlmutter, and he literally said, "I'm leaving." He went to Bob Iger and said, "I'm leaving. I'm done because I don't have no control over what's going on." So what did he do? He made Kevin Feige chief creative officer of Marvel Entertainment, including the comic books, including the animation, including TV, everything. And pretty much they made Ike pretty much CEO emeritus.
Yeah.
Saying, hey, you're there, but you're not there. But the thing is, we could have gotten these movies early. I believe Black Widow would have been out way before, Black Panther way before, and also Captain Marvel, because he was looking for these type of characters. And Shang-Chi.
Yes.
All those movies would have been out if it was up to Kevin Feige, but he got blocked. I'm just keeping it 100 on that one.
Right. This whole thing, we think about how it's affecting the entire industry. It's the AMC Universal deal. You know, Angela, they're shortening the theatrical windows from they're typically 75, 90 days, and now they're actually going to 17 days. You know, looking at that, you're looking at how, you know, everything's affecting everything. I believe that you keep in mind that theater stocks are down 32% to 70%, you know, with that happening. So going back to the first thing we talked about being the money, bringing it back to that, you know, those, I believe that I would guess that if this thing continues to go the way it's going, meaning the pandemic, you're going to the studio will probably lose the fight. I feel like they're going to lose the fight. The investors and stockholders are going to win that fight, I believe, and we're just going to see a lot of these films going straight to the premium streaming services model.
That's an interesting position.
Well, they feel that Black Widow will be that movie that will take Disney over the top to that streaming platform. You know, now how they do it, whether they charge, I think, how much did they charge for Mulan?
$30.
Okay. I wouldn't be surprised if they hit up with $49.99, you know, for Black Widow or something. But you know, like Adrian said, it's gonna happen. And it may happen soon. They just have to target a good time to do it. But you know, maybe Christmas time, maybe. I don't know. You know, sometimes people, you know, they got to look at the actual schematics on when the subscribers are at the peak of people subscribing to Disney Plus, you know, and everything. And, you know, right now, Disney Plus, you know, they got The Mandalorian. Right after that, they got WandaVision. Right after that, they got Falcon Winter Soldier back to back. Right after that, they're going to have Loki. So at least now they got more content to show, because at first all they had was The Mandalorian.
Right.
So I'm going to do a little pushback, Adrian, on that last comment that you made. Okay. And I'm going to come at it from a different direction. I don't think
it is pushback, because that's what the studios are doing.
Right. I don't think, you know, it's time to say good night to theatrical distribution as far as the theaters. I don't think they're going to go away completely. I think there's going to be a place for them. I think, you know, moving to 2021, which we're not sure what 2021 is going to look like. However, even if 2021 is still not back to normal, I think Disney's going to do better releasing it at the theater in 2021, even if they have dismal, you know, sales here domestically. I think they're going to make up for it overseas and recoup what they need to recoup.
These companies
in a timely fashion, and then drop it where it needs to be. So I personally think it's not a bad play to just push it off to 2021 and drop it in the theaters. I don't think Mulan did what it needed to do, dropping on Disney Plus, even with the premium payment on top. Because let's just think about it. Okay, if I know that this movie is, you know, one, I gotta get Disney Plus to even see it, for one, so I'm paying that. But then to watch this movie, I got to pay an extra $30, and I already know that it's going to be there for free in 90 days. Why would I pay the extra $30?
Right. Well,
What do you think?
Everything you said took about 45 seconds to maybe a minute. And during that time, Disney lost millions of dollars. These companies are hemorrhaging money right now. I want to take it to the point where, listen, I am a purist. I love going to the theater and sitting there and watching the film as it was intended. Heck, sometimes I go to the theater and before the movie starts, I'm watching it on my mobile phone. So I'm for both, you know. Mm. But you got to think about it. AMC, they basically reported losing $561 million. This John, I'm not familiar. I can't remember his last name, but he's right now. He's with the National Association of Theater Owners. He's asking Congress. He's literally lobbying Congress for some type of bridge of liquidity to aid for the theater owners, and they're banking on that. They're banking on that. But it's a scary time right now, and we could lose the theaters. You know, you're looking at AMC, which is the largest theater chain. You got Cinemark, you got Regal afterwards, but AMC is hemorrhaging money like that. You know, yeah. If this pandemic keeps going on, where are we going to show the movies? The theater chains may be closed. Where are we? And I'm hoping that's not the case. But just think back 15 years ago when you could go to a mall near your house, and they're no longer there. You know,
right? Yeah, that's true.
I got a question for Adrian. Hey, now if they say, for instance, hypothetically speaking, they say, well, we're gonna release Black Widow at this new release date, because I think they had about 5 or 6 or 7 of them already. What would happen if they actually release it in the summertime or when the weather actually starts to get warm, and then they actually start? I guess they can release it to the drive-ins or something like that. You think they can recoup?
Yeah, and this like goes all the way back, circles all the way back around to one little history. We go back to 1928. It was Robert Hollingshead. His mom was a portly woman. She was kind of big, and she was uncomfortable sitting in the actual theaters, the theater seats. So her son, who the family owned some type of automotive parts company, and he went and he actually got a projector, put it on the top of his car, took 2 sheets, put it in between the 2 trees, you know, put it together, and had his mom sit in the car and watch the movie. And based on that idea, he actually in 1933 started the first drive-in, and that drive-in was Parker Drive-ins in Camden, New Jersey. Now let's go all the way back. Let's go all the way back a little bit. What killed the drive-in? There was a couple of things. Okay, what killed the drive-in was the fact that cars became more popular and cars became smaller. Okay, and it wasn't as comfortable. You know, but you know, when they first came out, drive-ins, you'd love to sit in a station wagon with the whole
wagon all day, man.
But they became smaller and they weren't as comfortable. Also, it was a big land grab. You know, there was a baby boom explosion and property. The theater owner said, "Man, we could make more money shutting down this theater, selling this land, so that all these condos can be built and things like that." So there was a number of things that killed the theater. And of course, the cinemas, the indoor cinemas helped to kill the theaters. Now we're going back around. And now I think it's in Tennessee. They're building an outdoor, because of Corona and the virus, people are going back to the drive-in. Man. And in Tennessee, they're building an indoor drive-in. You know, they're building an indoor drive-in right now. Yeah. So it's come full circle. You know, but we got to keep our eye on the AMC situation. If AMC goes down, I don't know.
Yeah. So for those of you who are just tuning in, this is OLM Live Discussion, the Disney Dilemma. I'm Angela Green, Executive Director of On Location Memphis. My guest tonight, Ray J. He's an MCU historian and enthusiast. And then we have Adrian Williams, filmmaker, as well as OLM board member. We're discussing Disney and their decision to push Black Widow to 2021. And their board members, their shareholders wanting them to drop it to Disney Plus. And what exactly is going on with the film industry? Where exactly are we headed? So anyway, jumping back into the conversation. So I just want to kind of throw it out there again, because I don't think we kind of fleshed it out. Where do you think the fans, where do you think they really sit on this issue right here? Do they really care if it's at the theater or if it's at Disney?
You know what? I remember during the NBA Finals when they had to create the bubble in Orlando, and I believe that they actually said we can show Black Widow. That's what they said. I mean, it's like we can show Black Widow to the those that are in the bubble. Those are families who, because I think they only had about maybe 7 people per family or per player or whatever, and they was actually saying, hey, you know, we can actually show y'all Black Widow. I don't think they did that because there will be spoiler alerts all over the place probably, but think about how they entice people and how exciting the NBA players on Twitter were saying, oh man, I get to see Black Widow, this and that. I mean, it really hyped them up, but you know, in the end of the game, they had to actually play for a championship. But you know, this is something that even myself is saying, hey, man, I really want to watch this movie. Plus, at the same time, I haven't really seen an MCU movie since Spider-Man Far From Home, you know, for the most part, you know. So, hey, I'm ready for it. But the thing is, the fans are sitting there, they're salivating at this. They want to see it. They want to see it.
I think the fans are ready for it. I think
they're ready.
I think it's past time. It's getting to the point where they're slightly annoyed by the whole situation.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They're definitely ready.
So do you think it may be wrong for us to try to compare the results of Tenet and Mulan with what would happen with Black Widow?
I think that was Christopher Nolan, right, for Tenet, right?
Right. Yes.
I think Nolan has a lot of pull in the industry.
Right.
He has a lot. I mean, you know, he was insisting that this was going to come out in the theaters. He was insisting. I mean, there was no doubt about it. And you know, whether it showed fruitful or not, you know, he got his wish.
Right.
You know, he got his wish.
And there's a story. A super fan, Ryan Seals. He basically took a flight overnight to come to Indianapolis to see Tenet, you know, on IMAX. So you know, so people are, and that right there is a testament of, you know, if there's a film that you love, or you know, you're gonna move, you know, mountains to go and see it. And I think right now the fans are, like you said, Spider-Man was the last thing we had, and people are ready. People are ready now, and especially Black Widow being that one film that's going to launch Phase 4. You know, some people may not even be that big a fan of Black Widow. You know, but they just want the Phase 4 to begin. You know?
That's why I'm kind of wondering or thinking that it may do better if they were to put it on Disney Plus and go ahead and do what they call it, the premium access.
Right.
That Black Widow may fare a lot better than Mulan did because of the fact that it is Black Widow, because of the fact that it is so highly anticipated, because of the fact that it's going to launch the next, you know, phase of the MCU, and because of the fact that nobody wants other people seeing that movie and talking about it and they haven't seen it. So they may go ahead and spend that extra money so that they can get it within those first so many days that it's out, so that they can get right onto YouTube and everywhere else and get in the conversation like everybody else.
See, I also think that I think Disney is also watching the other studios on what they're going to do, because there's a lot of movies that are shelved. I mean, you got like Fast and Furious. You got the James Bond movie just about almost done. You got a lot of movies out there that should have been came out, but haven't. And they're sitting back and they're actually saying, okay, who's gonna be the first to pull the trigger,
right?
On you know, on how we're gonna do this, because they know if they release it now, they're not gonna get the profits that they usually would get if the theaters were open and the pandemic.
You got Emblem Entertainment, Steven Spielberg. They pushed West Side Story, the remake, back just to see how things are going to happen. They actually now have a release date for that, December 2021. You know, so you got a couple of things, Angela. You got to look at it. You got to look at it. I would like to have the movie go to the theater, but I also like the idea of coming out on a streaming service so I can see it. But on back to the money, you know, you have Tenet, Mulan, Greyhound, and you see these numbers, and it actually scares the studio. Okay, then you see Jeffrey Katzenberg's Quibi. Just days ago.
But I don't think Quibi count. I really don't.
I mean, it's a streaming service. It was a streaming
service. But I don't think
billions of dollars.
I know, but the whole concept of it, you know, I don't even think it would have worked really that well, even if we didn't have a pandemic. That's just my personal opinion.
Well, nobody wants to see their film in 10-minute spurts.
Right. Exactly.
Hey, just go in there and just basically splice them and add them together and make one movie, man.
Well, yeah, that's what they may have to do that. But you know, that's why I'm coming to my thoughts on it. I think that Black Widow would do better with a premium access Disney Plus release. I don't think they should base it off of Mulan. But I also do think they're not going to hurt themselves coming out on May 7, 2021 in the theaters, even if domestically they don't do that well. I think overseas they're going to make up for it. So I just don't think they're going to lose either way because of the film itself, more so than anything else.
Well, they predicted that the digital streaming platform for Disney Plus, by reaching their mark of 90 million subscribers, is willing to make about $30 billion. You know, so that right there is a testimony of, imagine if there was no streaming network and the pandemic would have hit, Netflix would be king. Netflix would be king for the most part, but this was not foreseen. But at the same time, it actually saved Disney a lot of money.
Oh yeah. The CEO who pushed to launch Disney Plus the way he did, and I forget the gentleman's name, but he saved them by doing that.
Yeah, Bob Iger, if I'm not mistaken.
Bob Iger, for basically pushing that through when he did, because it was definitely right on time with everything that we have going on as it stands right now. So anyway, I appreciate you all coming on and sharing this discussion with me. I'm going to just put it out there. Any final thoughts that you all have? I'm going to start with you, Ray, as far as what you think is the future of the film movie industry.
Well, personally, I know that unfortunately the pandemic has really slowed down everybody and those are affected. But the industry, the film industry, you know, it's something that they have to evolve into something that actually, in Hollywood, and Adrian, you know this, there are a lot of risks that are taken, a lot of risks, and this is a risk. And you know, either you're going to be safe or you want to feel safe wherever you go. Streaming is basically where it's going to be at. It's just that, you know, the format is going to have to change and they're going to have to adjust. Unfortunately, the format was not the same as the streaming networks for Black Widow, Spider-Man, and all the other MCU movies that they have currently in pro-production. I think they started on Blade, or they're looking for a director and a writer right now for Blade. From what I read in the news today and yesterday. But the thing is, how they're going to go by with that as well. So the point is that I think that the streaming is the way to go. And I do believe that Black Widow will be released. It's just, it is what it is, because the shareholders is going to, they're the ones that invest into Disney. But the theaters, if something doesn't happen by 2022, AMC and the other theaters, they are in trouble, big time. It is going to be some consequences and repercussions for the most part.
Yeah.
You know.
All right, Adrian, you got some final thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with Ray on that. I think, but I would actually move that timeline up. I would say this Christmas, if things don't change as far as the industry goes, AMC theaters, you have to understand that's a big, that fourth quarter Christmas is big for theaters because you have those holiday films and you have more ticket buyers because that's when the whole family goes and things like that. So that's going to be, that fourth quarter is going to be, it's going to say something. And if we're still, you know, indoors and things are shut down and which it kind of looks like it may be that way, you know, hopefully it's not. You know, AMC is in trouble if Congress doesn't come up with some type of loan or grant for them. You know, it's gonna be bad. I just hope and pray that it doesn't go that way because I'm a movie lover. You know, and I love the idea of going out to the theater. You know, I stream and I watch stuff at home all the time and on my mobile phone and everything. But I still like that experience of going out, you know, buying that $200 bag of popcorn.
Right.
You can't replicate the experience of theater, though. You can't replicate that. That is like memories when you go into the theater and you watching something. I mean, it is like, I mean, seriously. I mean, I'm serious. I remember when I first saw Superman the movie.
Yes.
When the very first time. Yes. I mean, I remember to this day. Yeah. I was like, I can't believe I'm here watching. Yeah. It was an experience in the theater. Right. You know, and other iconic
with everyone in that theater. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, man, if I would have saw that movie for the first time on, you know, DVD or digital or whatever, it just wouldn't have the same effect. It wouldn't have the same feel. I mean, literally that stuff and other movies like The Wiz, when I first saw that movie for the first time, those type of movies, I'm telling my age pretty much, but those movies actually, the theater experience was amazing. It was totally amazing. And
from the filmmaker side, you have to understand these filmmakers are making their films and making their movies, and this effect, this lighting, you don't get that. You don't really truly experience and see the things they want you to see on that little screen. You know, right. There are things that they do in post-production and things like that to add and complement to the experience and you have to see that on the big screen.
I give you a prime example. The scene when Captain America pretty much lifted the hammer. I mean, seeing that in the theater versus watching it, you wouldn't
have even seen that slight nudge on your phone of the hammer. You wouldn't have even seen that,
because the audience lost it when that happened. The audience,
in Endgame, when he was in Endgame,
he lost it.
I'll go even further back when they were, sitting around talking in the Avengers, and he kind of nudged it.
In Age of Ultron, when they was messing around at the party and stuff. Oh, no doubt.
Exactly. You wouldn't have even been able to. It would have been imperceptible on a small phone or tablet. You wouldn't have seen the nut. Yeah, and
just what like Sonia is saying, the effects, the sound, the group experience, you can't replicate that in the streaming situation. Excellent. So I appreciate all of you all joining us tonight for our first OLM live discussion, The Disney Dilemma. Please like, share, let people know about this. I hope you all enjoy. Maybe we can have you all back. You guys willing to come back on with us and have another discussion?
I had fun. Big time. Yeah, I had fun.
All right, then. Good night, everyone, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks. All right.
Thanks.